If I have an opportunity to talk to Rob and Ben from Edge of Wonder, I love these guys. This is the spot. And then after these nuclear tests, there was a huge increase in flying saucers and UFOs, in extraterrestrials, in abduction cases. It's probably one of the most paranormal hotspots on the planet. He essentially verified what Bob Lazar has been saying, and he did it in a way where it was just so organic that my mind was just like, because this is the missing link, you guys. This is the missing link. Well, then you get into the real deep stuff. Whatever it is that's controlling the world. If they are human, is this survival of the fittest? The system is designed to keep you in a compartment. I mean, how easy would it be for a species to take over all the electronics and then influence you through your own research? And you wouldn't even know it. I had an experience in 2011, and I think that I saw the Yama. And it was the scariest experience I ever had in my life. It literally scared the hell out of me. I was screaming on the ground. What if there was something that was created that at first was artificial, like an artificial intelligence, but it became sentient, and it essentially became so powerful, and now it has to use technology as a way to trap us. The only way out of this is in the human one. What if they altered our genetics? It seems as if genetic manipulation has been going on since at least 281,000 years ago. And I want to get to the true origins of our history and where we're going. You can even talk to chiropractors that'll show you the specific genetic manipulation that was done to the human lower back. What did they do to our third eye? What did they do to our capabilities of our higher self?
Hey everybody, welcome to technically part 2 with Rex Bear from Leak Project. And he interviewed us on his channel, and now we're interviewing him on our channel.
Rex, man, thank you for being with us. It's awesome to have you here.
Yeah, and you're like way more dressed up than we are.
Yeah, dude, look at this guy.
You know what? I told myself I have an opportunity to talk to Rob and Ben from Edge of Wonder. I love these guys. I mean, I met you out at Disclosure Con, very nice, very genuine. And I said, I'm gonna dress up. So yeah, this is about the only time you'll ever see me in a sport jacket and not like a Grateful Dead shirt or a Watch Out for the Edge shirt, you know, like Danger, Flat Earth as a joke. We all figured out the shape of the Earth, and it's Earth shaped. Hello. Pretty awesome. So
well, hey man, you look great. Thanks for dressing up for us.
You really do. And we're wearing your hats.
That has to be your 007 suit because it looks real tight on the shoulders. You looking good, man.
Yeah, I've just been eating a few too many. Yeah, it's been a lot of food.
Too many Twinkies.
Here, you know, the Rocky Mountains. It's this high elevation. I don't know how to explain it. So it's amazing. It's amazing. So yeah, thanks for the opportunity. Really glad to be
cool.
here.
Well, we're really excited to have you. Oh, sorry. What did you say?
Oh, no problem. I just said, and I am wearing my 5G protective.
That's right, and that's what these are. Rex gave us these when we were at Disclosure Con, and we're really happy to be sporting them on the show today.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, they look great on you guys. That's what I'm talking
I really like them. I've gotten some comments so far. But so yeah, when we were on your channel, you really were interviewing us. We were talking a lot about the deep state, a lot of like the satanic elements and everything.
Even QAnon and
QAnon, all kinds of things. So do you want to take it from there?
Yeah, I think there's, you know, it was really cool meeting you at Disclosure Con because Ben and I weren't too familiar with your work, you know, and after kind of going there and seeing more of the stuff that you've been doing, we're really excited to have you on because you've been doing this for a long time, and you actually have been to so many places that Ben and I haven't been. Like, it was just super exciting for us. Like, we heard you were at Skinwalker Ranch, and you mentioned Stone Lake, and there's all kinds of interesting places that you've explored. You're right near Dulce, right? So we were hoping to kind of pick your brain a little bit about all of these places you've been, and you can tell us all the weird stuff you've encountered when you've done that.
Yeah, and I mean, also, we know you have like over 300,000 subscribers to your YouTube channel, and you have a podcast and everything. So, I mean, you're really doing amazing work. And so before we get into that, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started and why you got started?
I must say, I learned it all from watching you guys. Thank you.
It's definitely not us.
And so I appreciate that. Checks in the mail. I know I paid you guys to take that. Thank you. No, just really appreciate it. So yeah, I was actually out in Stone Lake just a couple nights ago. And I was out there like 3 o'clock in the morning, which is close to Dulce, New Mexico, which is close to the Archuleta Mesa. And I'm about an hour from the Archuleta Mesa in Dulce, New Mexico. So I live in a very amazing location that's, since the 1600s at least, there has been sightings of UFOs, paranormal activity. It's probably one of the most paranormal hotspots on the planet. And technically speaking, if you look at the like the amount of people that live out here and the amount of people that see something in the skies, some type of anomaly, and have some type of paranormal experience, cattle mutilations as well, this is the spot. And there have been cattle mutilations since at least the late 40s, of like in the hundreds. And what's interesting is, and you can look at the what's called Project Gas Buggy. I don't know if you've looked into Project Gas Buggy, but Project Gas Buggy is where they did a nuclear explosion and they're underground, and they said they were doing it for natural gas. They wanted to see if they could make it an efficient way to get natural gas by nuking. Putting a nuke inside the planet. I mean, what could possibly go wrong, right?
Sounds safe.
Of course.
Totally safe. Yeah, much great idea. I think that was just brilliant. So anyway, with that being said, there's an area called Gomez Ranch, which is close to Project Gas Buggy. And this ranch was one of the original, if not the original, cattle ranch around Dulce. So it was kind of like one of the some of the original settlers after the natives in Dulce, New Mexico. And to take that even further, if you look at the after the explosion, all of these cattle mutilations that took place at the Gomez Ranch, which is very close to Project Gas Buggy, well, some people started wondering, could it have something to do with the nuclear testing? Could it be, men in black? Could it be government that's going out and testing these cows and cattle? Because what a great way to test for radiation. Cattle are grazing the grass, and the grass is going to be exposed to these radioactive isotopes. So that's it's a great way to test for radiation. Now, I think it would be much easier for the government or the military to knock on doors and say, hey, we need to test your cows, for radiation. We need to do some testing. But some people think that it's less conspicuous if helicopters or UFOs, because they've seen unidentified objects pick these cows up, come pick the cows up, drop them off a few miles later, cut them up with laser precision. Blood is gone. Certain reproductive organs are gone, tongue gone, and like this green goo. And the precision is just, they can't explain it. So is it our own government, or are there entities that are inner Earth that said, wait a second, you're not alone here, and they're coming out to observe? And then after these nuclear tests, there was a huge increase in flying saucers and UFOs, in extraterrestrials, in abduction cases. And we've been blaming men in space, but what if it's beings that actually live inner Earth? What if we're the aliens? So I've been connecting the dots with the Anunnaki, the Sumerian king list, and I've been researching these cuneiform tablets that are either translated by Oxford University or various other sources. So the Anunnaki were not created by Zecharia Sitchin, folks. I hate to tell you. They have been around a lot longer than that. You can actually look at the ancient Sumerian tablets and see many of these stories are the underpinnings of what you read in the Holy Bible. The difference is the translations. The translations were compiled into a monotheistic God, and then now you've got many of the industries around the world that are connected to that specific religion that is a form of control. Now, with that being said, it's quite fascinating when you read through these scriptures and through these ancient tablets that are 5,000-6,000 years old that talk about Enki and Ninmah, different gods manipulating man and creating man for them so that they could just go back and relax more and do what they wanted to do. So they were making people. For example, if you have an opportunity, read the tablet, ancient Mesopotamian tablet called Enki and Ninmah. Well, Enki and Ninmah are drinking beer and making people. And they're actually getting a little bit buzzed, and they're making mistakes as they're making people. They're like, oh, that one can't stand upright. What should we do with him? Oh, let's give him to the king. Okay, let's have another beer. Cheers. So it's fascinating to look at these old tablets and see some of the underpinnings. For example, the Enuma Elish is a great creation story. Ziusudra was most likely Noah in a biblical flood story, but this tablet that describes it is before the Old Testament version of Noah and the flood. But then you can also research floods and cataclysmic events, and there's been a multitude of floods and cataclysmic events over the past 30 years. So a lot of these ancient tablets and structures and formations and megaliths, in my opinion, weren't necessarily aliens, but were people here creating these incredible monolithic structures for not just religious purposes, but also scientific purposes. Because if you've got a perfectly built megalith that is aligned with the stars or the planets, if there is some type of perturbation or hiccup in the orbit of the planet, you would see that. Therefore, you could go underground or into a safe location and hopefully live through that cataclysm. So it just seems to me that there's so many of these connecting points. And when I'm getting into, and I'm bringing this all together, so stay with me, but these little gray men that have been depicted as aliens, what if they're actually inner Earth and they've been here longer than us? And what if they do these specific genetic manipulations for their longevity, for their lifespan, some type of hybridization program? Because it seems as if genetic manipulation has been going on since at least 281,000 years ago, connecting the Sumerian king list, where the gods descended from heaven, like we were talking about on part one. People in power, these aristocrats believe they're descendants of the gods. Well, you can connect it all to the Sumerian king list. And with that being said, you can take the Sumerian king list, you can date that back 281,000 years. And I've been able to correlate cities and timelines to 28,333 years ago with the Inanna's descent to the netherworld, which is most likely describing a planetary flyby of Venus, because most likely Inanna is Venus, astrotheologically speaking. So many of these gods and goddesses that are depicted as beings, well, they could be, but they're also oftentimes depicted as planetary events that happened in the past.
Interesting.
Yeah,
that's
really fascinating. Actually, haven't gotten so into the tablets like you, so it's really cool to hear you talking about them and the different leads that can come about from all of that information.
And I think the other important factor too is, like, whoever is the ruler, comes out the victor of all of this, they're the ones that kind of write the history, right? So, as you're kind of talking about it, like, our understanding about a lot of this too is that this is like what they consider their history, right? Because this is like, if you really think about it, the Anunnaki were the ones that were ruling over, and so it's like, this is the history they wrote. So it's kind of, it's because there's going to be people watching this that are like, wait a minute, you guys are saying this or that, and it's like, no, we're just saying that this is what is written because they're the ones who wrote the history. Like the Anunnaki wrote the history of it.
Well, and we need to, it's a point of reference. We need to look into those things and see what we can find and then relate it to a greater, bigger picture. You know, if you just cut it off just because it's there, you're kind of limiting your researching sources. I mean, 100%.
Absolutely. And see, what I do is I look at as many variables as possible, probably just like you guys. When I do research, I want to look at the opposing research to the document or the genre at hand. Because if you're specifically tailoring your research to fit your agenda, are you really a researcher? I mean, or are you just trying to fit in what's comfortable to you? So with that being said, you're absolutely right. The history is from the victors. Now let's take this a step further. If you want to go outside of these ancient cuneiform tablets and Mesopotamian tablets and their connections with modern religion, Abrahamic religions, etc., how about reading the Nag Hammadi stuff? The Nag Hammadi scriptures were almost completely destroyed by the Vatican and the Crusades. They almost completely destroyed all of this Gnostic information because they did not want that anywhere near what their belief systems were going to be on the masses. They want a monotheistic God with with a control and power system that you give a certain amount of money and time and worship. Otherwise, you're condemned to hell, and you're also condemned to a terrible life. And especially at that time, I mean, look at the stuff that was going on in the medieval times and the torture devices that they were using. It was crazy. It's absolutely crazy. There's a book that I've got on obelisks that show the chapel of a church and what they would do to a woman that they thought was a witch. And I'll just leave it at that. It's very, very, very disturbing. So, there's a lot of bad things going on right now. Some very terrible things. Terrible, terrible. If you look at it, compare it to back then, at least on what we've been taught. And once again, this could be just from the victors, right? They could be making this up too, because do we have video footage from 500 years ago? We don't.
Is there a history of galactic activity, such as wars, alliances, and other agendas that have an effect on life on Earth? What are the secret agendas behind the unseen forces and influences in mass media? What is the Draco-Reptilian agenda? What is one of the greatest secrets of the deep state or dark occult? And how does this secret relate to love, the inner child, and the essence of what it means to be human? How has the law and the legal system been used to further the war on spirituality? What secrets to our freedom have been hidden in plain sight there? The powers that be are required to reveal their secrets to us. Some of the best secrets of all are contained within the legal system itself. And I'll be showing you what these secrets mean for our liberation and evolution. All this and more in my new series, Into the Storm. I'm your host, Justin Deschamps. Only on edgeofwonder.tv.
But with that being said, if you get into the Nag Hammadi stuff, and if you want to read the Nag Hammadi scriptures, oh my goodness, I mean, that's a very interesting perspective on mankind. There's a book called The Secret Book of John, and it talks about the Archons, and it's very similar to the God of the Old Testament. Yah the Baoth is this chief Archon that's created. Now, Archon essentially means ruler. So when somebody, I hear a lot of people use the term Archon, and I don't know if they're thinking Anunnaki, if they're thinking these invisible snakes that have lion heads. I don't know where their mind is at. So when I'm saying Archon, in this text, I'm referring to these Nag Hammadi scriptures, and I'm also referring to the Archon being a ruler, being a controller. So these Archons, the chief one is Yah the Baoth. He's got a lion head and a snake body, and he decides to create other Archons in his image. Now, Yah the Baoth is created via Sophia, which is the feminine aspect of creation. And when she creates Yah the Baoth, she does it without the counterpart, without her male counterpart. Once she creates Yah the Baoth, she realizes that he's different and he's got these like fiery red eyes, and so she fears for him, and so she hides him away. So she hides him away in the cosmos somewhere, and then by doing that, Yaldabaoth's like, wait a second, I'm a god. I'm just going to make other gods like me. And so Yaldabaoth starts making other gods like him, and then these deities decide to make Adam. So they create Adam in their image. When they create Adam in their image, they use 365 demons and angels to make Adam. Now think about that, the number 365. We have 365 days in the year, so just kind of keep that in the back of the mind, catalog that. 365 demons and angels make the first physical body of Adam. And then they've got a name specific to each body part. When they create Adam, Yaldabaoth decides to breathe his life essence into Adam because that's the only way he can wake him up. He didn't mean to breathe his life essence in, but that's what happened. He tried to wake him up, and this is symbolic, folks. So just look at it symbolically, metaphorically. It's not a science term, or this. I don't think this literally happened in scientific terms, but it could have. Maybe it's all the above. But anyway, so Yaldabaoth, this Archon, this chief Archon that's created, when they make man, he blows his life essence, essentially, that he was given from his mother, into Adam. Then Adam's created, and Adam's greater than they are, than the Archons. So he's actually greater than his creators, and they're freaking out. They're like, wait a second, man, he's better than us. What are we going to do? So since then, there has been suppression tactics and anything they can do to bring down the life force of Adam. And then something very similar happens with Eve. Now, where I'm going with this is, look at what we're doing now with the algorithms and autonomous systems and robotics and technology and robots that we're creating, quantum computers and computer systems that are so fast, they can completely obliterate anybody that attempts to play them in a game of chess or something that uses math and components. There's just no comparison. We're doing now what was done in the past. So when you bring up these texts and being talked about the victors, yes, a lot of it now has been translated and watered down. But if you go back and read these 5,000, 6,000-year-old tablets and you connect them with the modern version of religion, and you look at these alternative texts, then you start studying esoteric stuff and hermetics. And when people use the term occult, oftentimes they might be thinking of something that's very dark or even satanic. You have to be careful how you use that term, because that in and of itself is just the adversary. Like you were talking earlier, there's good aliens and bad aliens. There's probably good reptilians and bad reptilians, and good people and bad people, and in every shape and form, there's duality. So I just lost my train of thought right there, man. I was so deep.
You were talking about Adam and the gods, and okay, go ahead.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. So now we're back there in that position. We're doing the same thing that our ancestors did. It's cyclical. Zecharia Sitchin gets, a lot of people give him a hard time. And I haven't read all of his works. I've read one of his books, and it was the 13th planet or the 10th planet. And I thought it was a pretty good book, but I even through there, he was talking about the May and different translations of these Sumerian tablets that I don't necessarily agree with. I think that the May in these Sumerian tablets is me, is you, it's DNA. They're referring to DNA, and the tablets of destiny is probably like the arc of the best genetics in the universe that you can duplicate and replicate. So when you get into these teachings and they talk about what was done back then, it just seems like we're doing a lot of stuff now that they did. Zecharia Sitchin said that they, the Anunnaki needed gold for their planet, for the atmosphere, so they're spraying stuff in the atmosphere. Well, I don't know about that, but we're certainly spraying stuff in the atmosphere now. It isn't gold, it's coal ash or silver iodide usually, most of the time. But you look at the autonomous systems and the creation of us years ago, it's cyclical to me. It's like meet the new boss, same as the old boss. And that's where my information has led me into and just kind of looking at the bigger picture and seeing what's going on now and comparing it to back then. And then I can decide, do I want to be a part of it or not? And, we have the decision, which side of the paradigm do we want to be on? And you guys are doing it too. You guys are being the change every single day.
We're trying.
You're doing it, man.
Hey, so that was awesome. I like all that stuff we were covering. Actually, it's interesting because we're actually working on a cannibalism series right now for our .tv, and it gets biblical really fast because you can't talk about cannibalism without bringing up a lot of ancient things, both pre-flood and post-flood, with the story of the demons that were in this world, and then the flood, Noah. Oh, actually, Adam and Eve, the flood, Lilith, who was supposed to be Adam's first wife, and these different things, and we spent, so many weeks going through all of this, and at the end of it, I was still like, man, and I hardly even touched on the Assyrian part of this whole thing, the Sumerian tablets or anything like that. Like, at the end of it, it was so long, it had already been 4 episodes. I was like, that's just gonna have to be its own frickin' series, because it's just getting too much, but trying to reconstruct all of that, because it's in so many different of these ancient books, it's just such a challenge. It's been a crazy process. So it's really great to hear you talking on this stuff and seeing a different side of the whole thing, and even where we can get more information on this stuff. So that's really awesome.
Hey, yeah, I appreciate that. It's a real passion of mine, and I want to get to the true origins of our history and where we're going, because and back to, I want to talk about the Greys for a minute. So I had, man, I'm getting the chills just thinking about this. I gotta change my hat for this. I gotta put on my let me put on my Leak Project hat for this. This is actually a Budget Blocker Leak Project hat. So I did an interview last night with James Goodall.
Awesome.
James Goodall, retired Air Force. He's written 27 books on spy planes and Area 51 stuff. And I know you guys have heard of Bob Lazar.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I've always loved Bob. I've always believed Bob. And so I'm interviewing James yesterday. And James, I think, is 75. He's like 75 going on 25, right? He's like a big kid. He's super cool. And he started talking about this guy named Bob that he knew back in he was like the 80s or something like that. And he's like, yeah, and me and Bob Lazar. And then he said Bob was a skeptic about UFOs. Like, before all this stuff came out, they were friends, and Bob was talking about how he got a new job at Area 51, basically.
Yeah, S4,
not Area 51, like S4 or something like that, somewhere in the desert. Whatever he said, you got to go back and listen to this podcast, because he essentially verified what Bob Lazar has been saying, and he did it in a way where it was just so organic that my mind was just like, it was
Right.
absolutely incredible, because this is the missing link, you guys. This is the missing link. If you take Bob's work, if you take these craft that he worked on, that he reverse engineered in this element 115, and these entities being non-human entities, that could explain the whole phenomenon with the abductions, with the flying saucers. Doesn't mean all aliens are like that, but these specifically. And then I started thinking to myself, what if these people that talk about treaties, like Laura Eisenhower, I love Laura, she's great. Her great grandfather, the president of the United States, and he warned us 40 years ago, or however many years ago it was, 60 years ago or whatever. He warned us about the military industrial complex getting too powerful. He warned us about that. And it's very fascinating that the lineage, his great granddaughter's talking about it now, saying, hey, we need to wake up and work together. But it's fascinating times we live in, you guys. It's incredible. So it's nice to have the opportunity to be in a worldwide network where we can do this out of your studio. I'm out of my garage here in Southern Colorado, and we can talk to the world. It's great. We're doing more than the big media conglomerates that have multi-million-dollar budgets with huge crews. And they know that. They see it, and it's freaking them out, because the box has already been opened. People don't want to watch Fluff anymore. Once they get out of that paradigm, they're done. Once they, It's like, okay, if you're born and raised in Fluff and all you do is watch the Communist News Network or whatever, they're all just about the same. They're designed to spin you and get you upset and get you into a fight or flight mode. And once you're in that fight or flight mode, you lose so much of your intelligence and imagination because you're just thinking of that survival. You're thinking of survival. So it's just amazing to see people like you guys go from like, who are those guys, to almost 400,000 subscribers in like literally months. That freaked him out. So no, I bet you the pieces that the mainstream brain drain media has done on you guys that have been, like, attempted to kind of smear you, it's probably brought you guys like a lot of very smart people.
Oh, it has.
That are like, just like you. They're like, oh, they're saying they're bad. They must be good.
Let's be real though, Rex. They're a lot smarter than us.
No, he's talking about. Oh, you mean the people?
Yeah.
Well, anyway.
And the only kind of fluff I like is on my peanut butter sandwiches, pretty much. So, yeah.
Fluff on peanut butter sandwiches?
You've never eaten fluff? Dude, you are a deprived child. Peanut butter, jelly, and fluff. It was like the marshmallow stuff that you spread on your... Man, what kind of childhood did you grow up in without fluff? I am beside myself right now. Literally, usually everything that you and I experience as kids is fluff? Like one.
No idea.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry for that tangent on fluff. That's how our shows usually go, though.
Yeah, seriously. But
oh, but you know what? Oh, sorry, go on.
Oh, I was just going to say, people watch your show because they don't want the fluff. They want the real stuff. Right? They want the stuff.
That is true.
It's very true.
That is true. Yeah.
So hey,
I've never had marshmallow fluff before. That sounds interesting.
I haven't either.
So,
I'll tell you what.
Brother.
That's your homework. Yeah, you guys need to try it. I'm not kidding. It's liquid. It's like smearing marshmallow on something. Like it's outrageous.
Fluff. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's like kind of saying like I never had a Twinkie or something. Like you don't want to eat a lot of them, but you should try it once.
I haven't had fluff. He hasn't had fluff, so it's very different from a Twinkie.
You guys have had just deprived childhoods.
All right, anyway, let's move on.
This isn't I'm going to team up on you kind of thing. Like y'all haven't tried fluff. All right. Anyway, I really wanted to hear from you about your experience at Skinwalker Ranch, because this is something that, and also Stone Lake, because this is something that Ben and I have been researching for a while. Lots of weird stories. We've heard other stories about skinwalkers across the globe, China, the United States, all over. I would really love to hear what your experience was like at Skinwalker Ranch.
I've been to Skinwalker Ranch several times, and one time flew, well, maybe I shouldn't say that. So maybe or maybe not, there was a drone that was maybe flown over Skinwalker Ranch.
I was trying to go this way, and it just happened to go that way. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, it might have been mine, it might not have been, but let's just say there was one.
Just let's say for imagination sakes, let's say for, like a live action role playing session here, that a drone flies over Skinwalker Ranch. Everything's cool, just, everything's good. And then all of a sudden, like out of nowhere, maybe a couple dozen black Mustangs, just wild Mustangs, just start running like all of a sudden a Budweiser commercial pops up or something, and then it was just wild.
Those are Clydesdales, but I got your point.
Yeah. So, anyway, these weren't Clydesdales, these were Mustangs. And they were all
crazy.
black, dude. It was just, wow. It was, but anyway, so that might or might not have happened. And another thing that happened recently, I guess about a year ago, I interviewed Travis Walton. And Travis Walton's a really nice guy. And the same day that I interviewed Travis, Kristen and I decided to go to the Archuleta Mesa. So the Archuleta Mesa, once again, it's about an hour from the house. So we're 2 miles from our house, just getting ready. This is before I do the interview. This is earlier in the day. We're going out there. And I'm not even 2 miles from my house. And at the approximate 11 o'clock position, and I would say about 100 feet, maybe less, maybe a little bit more, there is a metallic orb. Just dang, a metallic orb right there. And I go, holy, did you see that? actually I said it like this. I said, holy bleep, I wish you would have seen that. She goes, what, that metallic disc? And I said, well, I saw a metallic orb. So she saw the same thing. And she just explained it as a metallic disc. She saw it, I saw it. So I'm like, thank goodness you saw that, because if you wouldn't have seen this, then it would have been like one of those things where you're like, dude, I saw this amazing UFO. And everybody's like, oh, really? Did anyone else see it with you? You got any pictures? And you're like, well, I mean, because it's, you see it. And I go get my phone and I'm like, and it's gone. I mean, it was not there very long after I saw it. So anyway, this is on our way to the Mesa. We get back home and I look up on the internet to see if I type in metallic orbs. And there are a multitude of images of these things in the sky. So I don't know if they're one of ours or one of somebody else's, but I have gotten so much information about Dulce and the locals and the natives out here that these little gray men, I don't think that they're Anunnaki. I think that this is actually a different species that has been here for tens of thousands of years.